finally came out in Kansas City, huh?
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, it's awesome. So you like our setup here?
I love it. And like I was saying, there's no right way. There's not a blueprint on how to set it up. And what I'm seeing here today is awesome.
Nice,
So
man.
I'm fired up. I'm ready to dive into this and tell some good stories. And yeah.
So how many podcasting studios have you seen as of recent?
8 or 9, maybe 10 or so.
Yeah. How does this feel to some of those others? Because I really haven't been in any other kind of studios.
Yeah, you're up there, dude.
Nice.
You've done a really
That's
good job
reassuring.
on investing with the right equipment. I love that you are applying a video element to this, live streaming it. So, yeah, you're one of the top ones.
That's
Good
awesome.
work.
Well, for me, I'm just trying to do something that I would maybe want to watch. I know that this is not for everybody, but I've listened to, let's pick on Joe Rogan. I've listened to his podcast, the same podcast, just audio, and then the same podcast, watching it through YouTube through the video, and they're two different experiences.
You're right.
And I've actually listened to the audio and gone, okay, I need to go back and watch the video version of this podcast. So that was the thing that kind of really compelled to do the full video component of it.
Yeah, there's emotion, there's feeling, there's charisma that comes out that can happen in video form, but also like just naturally audio format, people can learn that way. For myself, I need both of them. So to apply both of them to what you're doing, I think is fantastic because everyone is a different type of learner.
Yeah.
And if you can kind of diversify yourself for those learners, you're going to do really well.
That's a good point. So you have been in the marketing world for over a decade. You got your degree over at K-State in marketing, is that right?
I did. I like to tell people for like the last 8, 9, and probably still today, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was working really hard at doing that. And it was around marketing and advertising. But I fell in love with marketing, branding, media at a very, very young age. I still remember the days that I would come home from school in 4th, 5th, 6th grade or so, and mom or dad would be like, how was school? How'd things go? And I'd be like, it was fine. They'd ask what I learned, and I wasn't that engaged or care to talk about it. But what we would do was put on the TV, and we'd watch commercials, and I would analyze them. And I'd be saying, like, why is that spokesperson on that with that music, with that brand, and with that message? And so ever since then, like, I kind of fell in love with it. And I also really believe in the power with media and marketing and advertising because it shapes behavior. And I think there's a responsibility behind that too. So a lot of interesting things have happened with how the marketing and advertising landscape is, whether that's abusing people's data and their privacy and things like that, or just shifting their behavior, obviously with the political campaign that happened.
Right.
So I think there's a responsibility, but it's also really, really fun, and it's kind of like in my DNA and just who I am.
Yeah.
So.
You said shifting and being responsible of the behavior. Are you talking about maybe just the culture of who is ever watching the brands and the commercials?
Yeah, totally. I think there was a bunch of false advertisement, and we're millennials. I've never had a cheeseburger from McDonald's the way that it's looked like on TV.
That's a good point.
And so there's that type of element. And then even as you start to study Gen Z, they are so about education and learning and what they're doing with like kind of their actions. I think is really, really cool. And I don't want to say that like it's better, but it's different. And there's times that they're getting it right by being more inclusive and in tune to how things are, and at the same time holding companies and brands and corporations to that level of accountability.
Yeah, there's a lot of accountability going on, but
Yeah.
I think it's spilled over too much, because it's like even on here, I have to be careful what you say. I mean, I can't just say whatever I want.
True.
There is a responsibility and accountability, which I think there's a couple ways to look at it, but when you get to the point when you're speaking on a public platform and you're like treading water, it's, I don't know. It can make me feel uncomfortable, because you and I both worked for corporate companies.
Yeah.
We would never be able to do what we're doing right now and put it out if we were still working for corporate companies.
You're absolutely right. And I've tried to push that envelope, or try to do this at times, and it's primarily why I'm not there. But yeah,
that's why I'm not there either.
Yeah,
because this is creativity.
It is.
Well, it's something that I feel is, and you obviously are passionate about it too.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's right on a corporation's behalf from stopping us from being creative.
Well, creativity cannot be limited.
Right.
Because if it does, then it's not creative.
Yeah.
And I think, kind of going back to my comments earlier, like, you can see through that very, very easy in that BS. So there needs to be a level of authenticity and creativity, but still accountability, like we're talking about. And, to have fun with it, and be genuine and be authentic, because that's what this world is like, thirsty and craving and hungry for.
So you got a marketing degree.
I did.
I saw that. I think you worked for Cerner for around a year almost.
Yeah.
Was that your first job out of college?
First job. I love this story because like it shapes a lot of how like people go about their education, and it's primarily because of like role models, which role models are needed in our life. And my biggest hero is my father. I am very, very close with him. He brought work home. I would go to his work, and he's in the pharmaceutical industry, so I wanted to be him. So right out of college, I wanted to be, sales, pharmaceutical, and do that. And I thought, what better place than go work for Cerner?
Right.
I found myself overseeing 150 hospitals out of New York and New Jersey, becoming a number, chasing numbers, running sales for a team called DeviceWorks. And it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. I was, kind of single and just hungry to eat it up.
Yep.
But at the same time, I realized, okay, like, this might not be me. And so how do I then, kind of navigate my career path differently?
Do you think you needed a marketing degree from a 4-year school in order to do that job? How do you think that's shifting?
It's totally shifting. What you really need is this. You need attention. You need to be able to experiment and to apply your creativity, whatever that might look like. I was fortunate to go back to K-State 3 years out of college, and when I really kind of got into more of marketing and leading a brand here in Kansas City. And the first thing that I did was I took all of the books that they were kind of like required to learn or use throughout the course
from K-State.
Yeah, and I took them all and I threw them in the trash. I go, dude, like, what's in these books?
It's a lot of money in trash.
It's irrelevant though. Yes, there's some fundamental principles and things like that on how to go about it, but where we are today, and the content that's being created, and being able to do this at a very low budget, with not saying like you needed this degree. You're not a doctor, so I'm not saving someone's life and needing to know someone's organs and things like that. So you were at Cerner for a year. Yep.
At what point did you? Because there must have been a transition when you said, okay, the pharmaceutical sales thing is maybe not the path you're going to go down.
Yeah. So I'll be completely honest with this, because I don't think even people talk about this. Getting fired. You
got fired.
Got fired.
Nice.
Straight up.
Love that.
And it did have to do with me trying to take on new things and seeing that there was other opportunities.
So not staying in your lane.
Yeah, I was not in my lane, man. And I was driving fast too. Again, like, overseeing a bunch of things, but also trying to take on other things and pushing the envelope. And I knew kind of what I was testing. I was also still young and a little naive, so it was all really good lessons that I've learned. But it also, like, just kind of gave me that freedom. I still felt responsibility to still uphold it and stay in there, and I wasn't ever gonna like leave it just yet. But them kind of like throwing the axe down on me definitely allowed that to happen. And really I was like, okay, well, I truly believe in sales and marketing, and they need to be hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go back to more of my creativity, get me back into the brands
Mm-hmm.
and things like that, and on the marketing side of stuff.
So where'd you go after Cerner?
So I went to Schlitterbahn Water Park.
Oh.
And that was really, really fun because I'm a Kansas City native.
Yeah.
And we have a beloved amusement and water park here in Kansas City, Oceans and Worlds of Fun.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, hey, we want to bring this new concept and water park to Kansas City from New Braunfels, Texas. And I'm going like, the Kansas City weather. Like, we were just talking about it. Like, we might be lucky if we have 3 good hot months. So sign me up. Let's go do this thing. We had the challenge in front of us.
How did you get in touch with Schlitterbahn, especially when they're out of Texas?
Networking. Honestly, I showed up to an event and I met the CMO and kind of told him what I was about and that like I was looking for a job. And he was like, hey, there's a job here that I think that you would fit. And so I was like, let's do this. And again, I think he needed someone too that kind of came from this area because my role was sales and marketing manager. So I oversaw the marketing side, and that was a lot of fun. I really was able to cut my teeth like at the first time trying to look at fonts and colors for a billboard and print and what our tickets were going to be like. And then, okay, how do we pull off like a TV commercial? And so we did that. But then I was like, well, we have to sell this thing. And primarily my responsibility was then going to corporate accounts and events and leading all of that and looking over our sales here in Kansas City while the other guy kind of looked at us regionally. So Iowa, Nebraska, Arkansas, Missouri, that type of stuff, and I was really honed in on Kansas City. Again, this was like my backyard, and I really just wanted to run wild there.
Who came up with the jingle on the radio? It's actually pretty good.
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
And that's another thing,
it's
too.
It's memorable.
Like, it is.
It's corny, but it's memorable.
And that's what you kind of need with a jingle.
Especially with a water park.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
And so have a sense of fun. But I love jingles. I love a good jingle or tagline.
Yeah. Were you part of that creation at all?
No.
Okay. Were you there when they had the incident?
I wasn't.
You were.
I feel bad because, again, I'm okay to be honest about things. When you see something happening, you have a responsibility to say something. And there was times where we did. We saw that this thing was getting built, and it was based off an idea and a picture that came from a water park and a huge slide down in Brazil. Their codes and how they built that thing, I promise you, were not like they are here in the States. And so, yeah, I said, this is crazy. This is not good. And I think it's cool. We could do it the right way, but as fast and hard and just kind of like duct taping the thing together, like it wasn't good. And it's sad kind of like how it went down.
Oh, it's terrible. It's like stuff of nightmares.
Yeah. But I think we all can look at that and just say, hey, this is a learning lesson. And I think for the kind of younger generations or us that are in still corporate or running a company, like always do the right thing and be willing to be honest and kind of courageous to say that. Because sometimes some people are a little delusional or too passionate about it. And they need to be checked and kind of balanced in those types of things. And that's totally okay.
I like it. No, it's a great viewpoint. So, how long were you at Schlitterbahn?
3 seasons.
3 seasons.
So that's really where I kind of like
3 years?
started wrapping up. Yeah, 3.5 years or so.
Okay. And then where'd you go from there?
Then I was like, okay, this is good. I'm on the client side, and I had a craving for more of the ad agency life, where I could see multiple campaigns, multiple brands, and just kind of get a more robust look at things. So I had a stint there. A lot of fun kind of working in ad agencies here in Kansas City and leading that initiative. And then I was like, okay, like got to do that for 2-3 years. And then I was like, I want to understand publications. So I worked for the Kansas City Star here in Kansas City. And that was really, really interesting. Again, like I've always kind of picked my choices on challenges and battles.
Especially during the time when they've been just ragging on print publication and how it's going to be obsolete. But I mean, I look at the KC Biz Journal almost every day. I mean,
That's
even
awesome.
though it's through email and the internet, but I get a hard copy every Monday, and I still go through that.
That's good.
And so you went there regardless of those kind of...
Yeah, I wore it a little badge of honor
Right.
when everyone was saying, "Hey, print is dead.
Yeah.
The newspaper is dead," and I was like, "Man, like we're the godfather of media,
Uh-huh.
you know." And to be able to see how a newsroom acts versus like our advertising division that I was, a part of. So, again, like I think there's something to be said about a 20-year-old to just being able to be a little selfish and say yes and go and experiencing all these things like I was working really hard, not knowing what I was doing. It's now shaped me into my 30s, and I look at what that's going to do for my 40s and so on. So working within that publication with having the brand side, the client side, the ad agency side of publication really just exposed me to so many things that I'm fortunate to know and be a part of.
It's funny you say that because I like how you put their experiences. So when I first started off in recruiting, the big thing was clients would say, we don't want candidates who are job hopping. And there's a difference between going and getting experiences somewhere every couple years and tastefully and respectfully being gracious to the person that you're working for and saying, hey, this has been awesome, but I want to go explore this, or I want to go try this new thing and work for this company, versus getting fired and going to the next position. And, the old adage used to be like longevity. We want to see someone who's been at a company for 6, 7, 8 years. That's the type of candidate we want. And that's going away. You're in your early 30s and you've worked for a handful of companies, maybe more, and you have seen all the different industries. You've been on the agency side, you've been on the publication side, and so it adds to the resume in a really positive way, because you're seeing so many different facets of the marketing industry.
Well, I think what can't be said on paper is how you exit and how did you actually handle those relationships. So every single time I moved on, I would sit down and tell them, hey, this is what I'm thinking, and before I actually make my final decision or that I am moving on, like I want to talk about it. And because I don't think that even happens too much. It's almost like the employer, the candidate is like, I'm out, and then it's like, oh man, now the employee or the company employer is just left kind of high and dry, and they have to rebound from it, and that's really, really tough.
And there's a lot of this still going on, by the way.
But what I would always say is like, hey, I want to talk about this, and then I want to respectfully do the right thing.
Right.
So the clients or the campaigns or the work that I was involved in, I'd be like, I want to address them. I want to personally say, hey, I'm leaving here. I don't want them to send an email and then have that go, hey, it's forward over to someone else, and they're like, whoa, where did Addison go? He was just here 2 weeks ago, or he was running everything and everything seemed fine. So I think if you can take that approach too, but that takes a little bit of courage. It takes honesty and addressing kind of the elephant in the room or what you're already feeling. So again, just do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm not going to blame any certain generation, but there seems to be quite a few folks on the corporate America side that they don't want to have those kind of conversations, especially folks in their 20s. They would rather just not show up, kind of call in sick, maybe quit on a Friday. Quitting on a Friday is my least favorite thing that I hear of, because your intentions they're just wrong. Even if you do it face to face on a Friday, I don't like that. Do it on a Monday morning. Be respectful. Tell them that, hey, if you need me here, and give everybody a good timeline, because these people paid you. They gave money out of their pockets and paid you thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah. And then Kansas City's too small of a place where you can burn bridges either.
Oh, we always talk about it, 1 degree of separation here in Kansas City.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So that's why I really cared about like doing the right thing, having the right kind of exit plan, and yeah.
So where'd you go after that?
So what happened at my time there too was really, really interesting, because I I saw what we were doing. We
Mm-hmm.
were trying to take things from print and move them more digitally.
And what year is this?
This was 2.5, 3 years ago.
Okay.
And that's when I really got like in love with ad technology and where that's going. And so, we're trying to take print and some of these big accounts,
Mm-hmm.
roll them into doing more digital, banner ads, impressions, and social media, whatever, in the digital realm. But I was like, man, there's even better technology
Mm-hmm.
than just this digital play
Mm-hmm.
or this mobile first era. And I found myself taking interest and outside of the 9 to 5 meetings with new types of vendors and technology companies. One of them primarily, they're still here in Kansas City. It's called Trey. But they're around voice technology. And where I was trying to take this, and I completely presented it to all the executives and the leadership team at the Star, was what happens if people could grab their phone, open up the Kansas City app, but we had this technology embedded into our app where instead of trying to navigate and figure out sports and Chiefs or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they could just be like Patrick Mahomes. And then boom, a video, the most recent article, or what we wrote that morning would come up right then and there.
It's going to.
Yeah, and what Trey says is giving consumers exactly what they want when they want.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to give a shout out, Dale Canoe. Keep doing what you're doing, man. It's coming. Everyone knows voice is going to be a big play.
Mm-hmm.
But once I started to kind of see advertising technology and what's happening that's what really kind of has where my interest lies even today.
And that's called Trey?
Trey, Tre. So, yeah,
Okay.
they have an awesome technology that basically can get built into other people's apps. And even, looking at Alexa and skills and just where voice technology is going.
Well, I think what I've heard is there's a lot of major corporations that are investing in the voice because traditionally you go to Google, whether it's on your phone or on the desktop, laptop, you type in Google and you got your list and it's pages and pages long. And some people pay to get on certain spots on that list, but when you do it for voice and you say, hey, I want an ice cream in the Overland Park area, there's only going to be one option it's going to give you. And so who's paying for that top option? And so I'm hearing about all these companies now really starting to heavily invest in voice and Google Voice and Amazon and Echo and Alexa because it's going to go there. It's just a matter of when.
Well, here's the thing. That's a great question to be asked. But I want to say, can we actually leap that question and say, could you have a pizza shop and I have a pizza shop and both of us still have the word pizza? Because that's what Trey can actually provide. So now we can actually have endpoints designated to it. So it's not about just owning the set of keywords and monetizing and playing within the game of Google, because that's how they make their money, is continuing to control these keywords.
So going outside
and
of Google.
Yeah, and really saying, hey, like, let's break that and not.
How do you do that?
Well,
if you're searching for something, isn't the voice going to be connected to a search company?
Yeah, but you can put them at endpoints. So I don't want to totally
I'm probably
take this all the way into Trey. But
maybe we need to have him on at some point.
I definitely think you should.
Yeah.
I actually been encouraging him because he is so knowledgeable about this. He was actually the mind behind Sprint getting live broadcast TV to the phone. And everybody at the time was like, you're crazy.
Wow.
So him going about this route, is no different.
It's really interesting.
He's just a passionate man. And it's not about, like, he wants to build a company and make millions of dollars. He just knows when he's right. Yeah. And he's going to stick behind that. I think that's really cool.
Got to go with your gut.
Yeah, you always do.
So you worked for some smaller marketing firms as well. And, what is that landscape like? How is that evolving? Obviously, Kansas City's kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a bit of a hub for a lot of marketing advertising companies like
You're right.
VML. They just had a huge acquisition, and you got Barkley and some of these other firms in the Crossroads and whatnot. And how do you see that changing? Is it social media just making the change? with those platforms?
Yeah, there's a lot of things happening. I think I'm grateful and I'm glad that the Barclays, the VMLs, are here in Kansas City because they help put us on the map. And for the last 5 years and continuously, we can say we can play with those people in New York and we can play with those people in LA, and we're from a hiring standpoint, we're probably even cheaper.
Oh yeah.
And we're gonna outwork them.
Right.
And we're just as smart. So I love that VML is here in our backyard, and even just how they're shifting and acquiring some really really great technology companies, and digital firms that really just say we're going to be disciplined. And I think that's what's really shifting in these big ad agencies, is they kept saying we're full service and trying to just shove everything down on clients so that they could be full service and become this agency of record and do everything for them, than just saying, hey, we're really really good at creative, we're really really good at branded videos, we're really really good on social media community management and launching brands there. So that's where now it's kind of like getting fragmented out, and you see some of the smaller guys earning that way here in our Kansas City market.
So, you having a startup marketing company,
I do.
What are the advantages of having a startup, small, nimble, flexible marketing firm versus the VMLs of the world?
I think it first starts with staying aware.
Okay.
Too often it's like, hey, we've done this way, and that's gonna continue to be this way. Even brands and companies, like whatever got you here the last 50 years, I promise you is not gonna get you to the next 50 years. So for me, and what I'm trying to continue to do is two things: stay curious to the new challenges and the things coming on, because every day a new feature or something else changes. So we have to be a little bit flexible and curious in what's happening, and not blind to that, and aware. Okay, so this is more than just a trend, or aware of our own capabilities to adopt it, and kind of hedge your bet before others haven't.
What have you found that are some sweet spots that you guys specialize in?
It's this right here, podcast.
Yeah.
I truly, truly believe from this moment forward that podcast will, be a factor in more brands and companies' marketing strategy. And before we even started Mahalo Media, it all started through an experiment, and a podcast that kind of showed good data points, good results. It was just audio, so going back to what we were talking about earlier, I won't ever forget this. We're running this podcast. It's going well. Got a number of episodes, audience, and there was a comment. And the comment was, if only I saw Matt's face when he said that. And it was like, boom, lightning hit me. We got to put video to this thing. And so going back to what we were talking about, like that element of having both audio and video, and now just seeing and doing my research and continuing to be aware of how podcasts has evolved. There's no right way to do a podcast. So whether it's a show or whether we're looking internally, there's a company here in Kansas City that kind of deals with like health benefits, and they're in the healthcare industry. They're looking at podcasts and how could this actually better inform their candidates and potential new hires. If they were able to want to get the best of the best out of the graduating class from KU, K-State, and Mizzou, like, oh, this would be sweet for them to be more informed on these roles and how this company is structured, our culture, taking storytelling to a whole new level. Or externally, kind of like this, where we want to share and we want to inform our audience and just let them know what we're doing. So podcast, man, like there's no limitations, I think, right now on how you approach it. You just got to be open to committing and trying to do it, stay consistent to doing it, and at times try different things.
How do you see corporations using podcasts more? I mean, because there's only so many things that they can do and say. Because usually, traditionally, what I've seen is companies will have on their website a little 1 or 2 minute video where company comes in, they do all the bells and whistles, and they kind of cut it really kind of sexy and all these things. What do you think the podcasting does versus a really well edited video like that?
I think it's just because what you're trying to do in that thing is like drop features and benefits about, you know, what you do and who you are. But what I really believe podcast does best is like getting down to the why. And that takes content, and that takes a little bit longer format. It's kind of like where blogs play a role in things. But as we continue to live in a fast-paced environment and culture, less people are starting to read.
Yep.
You know, so being able to listen on the go and still saying, okay, like they didn't just hit me with a flash of, you know, what they do or their services or even just their pricing. It's like why they do what they do, because that's what really matters, and I think that's what moves the needle. Even if it's B2B or B2C. B2C naturally plays well, but B2B, you know, now I understand why I need to partner with this people. This is why I need to buy from this manufacturer or whatever from a B2B standpoint.
Okay, and diving a little bit more about Mahalo Media, tell me, okay, where were you before Mahalo Media? Yeah, can we talk about that or?
Nah, so
okay,
yeah, it's all good.
No, yeah,
it's basically the last year. Yeah.
Okay, and so how did you go from just day one of opening the doors, saying that you're for business?
Yeah, based off of circumstances and situations, and knowing a good amount of people here in Kansas City, I was just like, okay, like I've always wanted to, like, there's so many times I've brokered out a deal or made an introduction, and I was just like, if only I could like had played a role and actually put my expertise and then got paid to do it, that would have been really rewarding for myself. So I was like, okay, like given the stance and the situation, like I'm gonna create this. I believe in it. I've been wanting to do it, and you just kind of like have to have that to happen at times, and just say, let's do it. I don't think it's the right way, I'll be honest, because I don't have a bank account full of cash that I can just, you know, continue to do all of this. The smart thing to do is have some of that and then go forward. But I was reading an article, and I think this is true too. Like, you gotta earn it. You have to earn your level of expertise and what you're doing, because entrepreneurship is glorified right now, and that just seems like, oh yeah, I'm ready to break away from corporate America and leave my job. Like, no man, like earn your expertise, earn that. And so part of me says, like, yeah, the experiment in what I was doing with the previous podcast like was doing that. I was trial and trails from that led me into it. So yeah. So
basically, if I'm a company here in Kansas City or anywhere regionally, and I say, man, we need a subject matter expert who's going to come in, give us some ideas on how we could create or deploy a podcast, whether it's audio or visual, and so you would be the go-to guy for that and walk them through the steps.
Yeah, I definitely think it starts with an alignment meeting. Like, I want to understand your why, because I have a fresh perspective. I'm not working for your company, and I mean, maybe I know about it or a few people for it, but I too need to walk that journey that so many other people, internally or externally, your audience will walk with you when you engage with that. So definitely starting with an alignment and figuring out, okay, what is the best format and why should we do this? Maybe you're just not ready. Internally, it does take a lot, and it just takes a lot of time. It takes commitment. You know what I mean? Consistency.
That's a big one.
You're going to see departments and people have to wear this kind of media hat and get on board. And if you're not kind of structured or operationally there, then like don't force it. But if you are and you have that capability, or you just like, you know what, we're willing to put the time in and trial and error, like, heck yeah, let's go for it.
Nice.
And then once it's going, you know, like I've learned certain things, like how to get on Spotify versus Google Play, and not just taking a link or a file of content and just uploading it into iTunes. Like, there's deeper strategies and intent that needs to happen in that. And each channel too has to behave differently than all of them. So just copy and pasting it across the board, I don't think is the best thing either.
Well, and there's so many options. I mean, just audio podcast speaking, how many different platforms can you put that on? It's more than a handful, isn't it?
Oh yeah, 10 to 15.
So
as in like true good platforms.
And it's hard to navigate that, especially if you have no idea, what the landscape looks like.
Did anyone know how to do it with social media? With like Facebook,
right?
And then like all of a sudden Instagram comes, and then Snapchat and Twitter's in there.
But people are still trying to figure out which one of those platforms is worth the time and going and exploring. As of recent, I've heard Facebook is falling off really hard for that, and businesses are going away from Facebook. And then Snapchat has its avenue, but there was a lot of really good ideas about Snapchat, how it can be incorporated into business, and now I'm seeing that being pushed back, that it's really just the tweens that are using it, and it's really hard to navigate that, man. I just think you need people who are immersed in these kinds of thoughts and questions every day to be able to give you a consultative approach.
Yeah.
And so being what you're doing, I think is really, really unique, because I don't think, if you take your typical marketing company, they're like, yeah, we'll throw in a podcast, and then we can do that too, and we can make billboards and your new ad campaign, and we'll do your Facebook campaign. What about how about being really good at one thing?
Yeah.
And if you can create that brand of, okay, Addison is the podcast guy, and that, I think, for you, if you can really create that brand, I think you could have something special, because I don't think this is going anywhere. Radio has been around for 100 years plus. It's held strong for a long, long time. For the most part, this is free, and so I think it's here to stay, and I think it's really smart that you're investing in it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right too. There will be a migration.
Mm-hmm.
So where do they go? People always need their entertainment. They always need their education. They always, audiences will shift.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm hedging my bet in this area. But this is more than just a bet. I sat in a chair like this. There was 4 ladies across from me, and they told me, "Hey, Addison, you're dyslexic. And, reading, writing, numbers, school, it's going to be really challenging. So we just, encourage you to give it your best effort. And then as your career or your schooling develops, you should just go get, manual label job."
Was this in elementary school you were told this?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm compounded with that and saying, but hey, we're going to put you in the resource room. And this too helped shape me to look at people all individually and love them uniquely different. Because I was with people that had Down syndrome or some other serious learning challenge, and I'm just like, what? Why am I here? So I had crazy doubts about myself and things like that. But then I was like, yo, there's things called books on tape. And so the same books that you thought I could not understand and that were going to be challenging and I was not going to, get a good grade on, I am.
Because everyone learns differently.
Yeah,
I think
totally.
is what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
I almost got held back from kindergarten. I couldn't cut. I was actually trying to cut something today, and I was like, oh, I probably should have stayed an extra year in kindergarten. So I feel your pain a little bit.
Yeah, so I think, again, as we look at just audio in general and just how educational that can be, and everyone learns differently. So my passion with audio and learning books on tape, and I think people now just call them podcasts.
Yep.
And then with video too. I played sports, and one of the best things I would ever do was just watch Michael Jordan, watch Ray Allen, JJ Redick, how to shoot a basketball. And then I would go out there and I'd do it 1,000 times.
Yep.
So where we are in society, you can do that. And I think that's what YouTube is so great for, is you can learn certain things and DIY it yourself. Yep. And then you compound that with the audio side of things. So that's the beauty of media too.
Right.
And when you can leverage that. So
what do you see for the next 2 to 5 years for your business?
Just steady growth.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm not comfortable at this place or at this time right now to like go and get funding. You know, I've never navigated that water. Again, like to earn that and that type of stuff. I will definitely take advice and, you know, mentorship on that and see what would work. And I'm also just like really happy with what we're doing right now with the team that I have, with the channel partnerships, going back to saying, hey, like, be very disciplined, be very good at one thing right now. That's what I want to do. Because once you kind of get the ball rolling, you feel like, oh, I can go over here, I can try that. And so, again, I'm just trying to say, stay self-disciplined, have the company kind of have those disciplines. But I think there's going to be some wildly new things that are going to happen to the market. Like when Google decides, which it could happen, I'm going to go on record right now and say this, they decide to put up audio next to video, images, maps, and the main navigation of search, it's going to be a game changer. Now we have search engine marketing and SEO all going, holy cow, how do we figure that out? I don't know. Maybe Mahalo Media shifts into that area too, and helping brands and companies now do the same thing that an SEM, SEO team knows really well, and how to play within like Google and that type of stuff. So
that's awesome, man. I like how you are trying to, you're seeing the chess pieces being moved before they really are, and adjusting to it.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think that's just the nature of business and kind of like all industries right now, like being willing to do it differently, continuously over time.
And if people want to get a hold of you or get in contact, how do they find out about Mahalo and you as well?
Yeah, so our site is mahalo.media, no .com, a little bit different.
Mahalo.media.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn as well. So yeah, cool. We can put our contact info at the bottom of this thing as well. So
definitely. Awesome, man. Well, this has been great. Thank you for so much for coming on.
Hey, thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, man. That was good.
Well, man, we did really roll through that 30 minutes.